In a small rural town where tradition ran deep and change was feared, one farmer dared to follow a different path, planting not just seeds, but a quiet revolution. When disease threatened the land and a powerful corporation came knocking, the community had to choose between easy money or the roots that held them together. This is the inspiring story of resilience, family, and the quiet power of staying true to the land. In the quiet town of Maplewood, Vermont, John Miller woke up before dawn, feeling the crisp autumn air brush against his face. The simple wooden house where he lived with his wife Sarah and their children was still wrapped in silence, save for the soft sounds of nature outside. John's heart carried a deep hope that this day would bring him closer to his dream, a dream rooted in the soil he tended with care. He believed that the land held more than just crops, it held a future for his family and the community. But he knew the road ahead would not be easy. Sarah was already in the kitchen, brewing coffee and preparing breakfast, her hands steady despite the worries they both shared. She met John's gaze, offering a smile full of quiet strength. "You're doing the right thing," she said gently, "even when the world seems against us." Her faith in him was a beacon during the long days of doubt and resistance from their neighbors. Together, they had chosen a path less traveled, driven by values bigger than money or ease. John packed fresh greens from their organic garden, carefully placing each leaf in a basket for the market later that morning. Maggie, their curious 10-year-old, bounded into the kitchen, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Can I come to the market with you, Dad? I want to show everyone that fresh from the farm is the best," she exclaimed. Her enthusiasm was infectious, a small but powerful reminder that the seeds of change often begin in the youngest hearts. As the family prepared to face the day, the sun began to rise over the rolling hills of Vermont, casting a golden glow on the fields. Yet, beyond the beauty, John knew the town's skepticism waited patiently like a shadow. Many doubted his organic methods and the future he dreamed of. But deep down, John held onto a quiet courage, a belief that the simplicity and strength of the land could win over even the hardest hearts. The market square buzzed with familiar faces, but John's stall stood apart, vibrant with the rich colors of freshly harvested organic vegetables. Despite the inviting sight, many townsfolk hesitated, whispering doubts and shaking their heads. Tom Reynolds, a longtime farmer and John's skeptical neighbor, prowled nearby, his arms crossed and eyes narrowed. "This organic stuff won't last here," Tom muttered to anyone who'd listen. His voice echoed the sentiment of many who clung to tradition and feared change. Just as the crowd seemed uninterested, a burst of energy arrived in the form of Emily Carter, a young environmental activist from a nearby town. With a lively spirit and passionate words, she began to speak about the value of sustainable farming and caring for the earth. Her enthusiasm stirred the crowd, drawing a few curious souls toward John's stall. Slowly but surely, the barrier of suspicion started to crack, opening the door to hope. Emily's unwavering support was a breath of fresh air for John and Sarah, whose days were filled with uncertainty. Together, they shared stories of the land, the roots of their crops, and the importance of harmony with nature. The community began to see that organic farming was not just a fad but a promise for a healthier future. Little by little, the seeds of trust were planted alongside the vegetables. But the real test was yet to come. While the local farmers continued their usual routines, unaware of the storm brewing ahead, John's small farm stood as a beacon of resilience. The quiet strength of nature was preparing to reveal itself in a way no one could have anticipated, and that revelation would change everything. Weeks passed, and the fields of Maplewood began to show signs of trouble. A strange blight crept silently through the traditional crops, wilting leaves and withering stalks with alarming speed. Farmers watched in despair as their years of hard work were undone almost overnight. Panic settled over the town like a heavy fog, casting shadows on the future they once took for granted. Amid this growing crisis, John observed his own garden with cautious hope. To everyone's surprise, John's organic crops remained healthy and vibrant, untouched by the devastating plague. The natural balance of his soil and the careful diversity of his plants created a shield against the disease. When Tom Reynolds approached John with a mix of skepticism and desperation, the old farmer's pride softened just enough to ask for help. "John, I don't understand how you're still standing strong. Can you teach me?" he admitted quietly. John welcomed Tom with open arms, knowing that unity was the only way forward. Slowly, other farmers followed, curious about the methods that saved John's land. The community's resistance began to waver as they gathered to learn and share knowledge. What was once a source of division started to become a bridge of hope. In the face of hardship, Maplewood found a chance to grow stronger together. Yet, just as the town rallied around this newfound wisdom, a new threat emerged. A large agricultural corporation appeared on the horizon, offering tempting deals to buy up local farms. Their vision of industrial farming promised money and growth, but at what cost? The fight for Maplewood's soul had only just begun, and John realized this battle would test more than just his crops. Representatives from the corporation arrived in shiny black SUVs, their suits crisp and smiles polished. They spoke of progress, investment, and efficiency, waving contracts thick with promises. Some farmers, still reeling from their losses, saw only dollar signs and a chance to escape their struggles. The temptation was powerful, and cracks of division began to form in the once united community. John, however, saw through the facade. He knew that once the land was sold, there would be no turning back. At a town hall meeting, tension filled the air as neighbors debated their future. Emily stood beside John, her voice calm but resolute. "You're not just selling land, you're giving away your roots, your legacy," she said, her words echoing off the wooden walls. Some heads nodded in agreement, others remained silent. The room was heavy with uncertainty, and John could feel the weight of 1,000 lifetimes resting on those decision-makers' shoulders. Back home, Sarah and the children felt the pressure too. Maggie, with her usual spark, began writing letters to local officials, pleading for support of small farms. "If kids like me don't have real food and real nature, what kind of future are we going to have?" she wrote in her careful handwriting. Sarah looked on proudly, knowing their fight wasn't just for now, it was for every generation that would walk these fields after them. As the corporation pushed harder, offering bonuses and quick closings, John knew it was time to act. He organized a gathering on his farm, inviting everyone, farmers, townsfolk, even skeptics. Beneath the setting sun, surrounded by rows of thriving greens, he spoke not just of farming, but of life, values, and the meaning of home. The land wasn't just soil, it was memory, identity, and hope itself. The gathering lit a spark in Maplewood. Families who had once considered selling their land began to reflect more deeply. Stories were shared around bonfires, stories of grandparents who had worked the fields with bare hands, of harvests celebrated with music and laughter, of lives rooted in the rhythms of the earth. What the corporation offered was money, yes, but what John and his family offered was meaning. Slowly, the town began to remember what truly mattered. Tom Reynolds, once the loudest critic, now stood as a quiet supporter beside John. "I almost sold everything," he admitted one evening. "But watching you, seeing Maggie believe so fiercely, reminded me why I started this life in the first place." He began helping rebuild other farms using the same organic practices, turning from skeptic to steward of the land. That transformation sent ripples through the town, proving that change is possible, even for the most stubborn hearts. Emily worked day and night with John to create a local farming alliance, securing grants and legal protections for the community. With her city connections and John's experience, they built something stronger than contracts. They built trust. Local news outlets picked up the story, and soon, Maplewood became a symbol of resistance and renewal. Strangers began visiting, curious to see the town that had turned its back on industrial farming and embraced a slower, richer way of life. Still, the corporation didn't give up easily. When their final offer, the largest yet, was rejected by the majority of farmers, they pulled their proposal and left town. It was a quiet retreat, but one that marked a turning point. The people of Maplewood had chosen soil over silver, roots over riches. And in that choice, they found not only resilience, but a renewed sense of purpose. Spring returned to Maplewood, bringing with it the scent of blossoms and the sound of hammers as neighbors rebuilt greenhouses and barns together. The once scattered community had become a circle, tight, strong, and grounded in shared purpose. Children ran barefoot through rows of lettuce and beans, laughing as their parents swapped seeds and stories. Life wasn't easier, but it was fuller, richer, more connected to the land and to each other. On a warm afternoon, John stood at the edge of his field, watching Maggie explain crop rotation to a group of visiting students. Her voice rang with confidence, her hands dusty with the soil that had become her second home. Sarah joined him, slipping her arm around his waist. "Look at her," she whispered. "She's not just growing food, she's growing a future." John nodded, eyes misty, overwhelmed by the quiet beauty of the moment. That evening, the family gathered for dinner under the stars. Around the table sat not just relatives, but neighbors, friends, and even former skeptics who now found peace in the soil. Laughter danced through the air as fresh food filled their plates, every bite a testament to resilience, love, and hard-earned unity. John raised his glass, and for the first time in many months, felt truly at ease. They had protected something sacred. And though challenges would always come, John knew they had already won something greater than any profit: the right to live in harmony with the land and to pass that gift forward. The story of Maplewood would be told for years to come, not as a tale of conflict, but as a song of renewal. In the end, it wasn't just about farming. It was about remembering where we come from and choosing every day to stay rooted. If this story moved you, imagine how many others are still out there, waiting to be told, waiting to be heard. Life in the countryside may seem simple, but behind every seed, every choice, there's a story of courage, community, and heart. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and stay with us for more stories that inspire and connect. Until next time, stay grounded.